What's up, everybody? So, our national coordinator called me yesterday. She said that they announced that there was a parade, a military parade, that they were having in D.C. in June. Now, you got to remember, I don't really pay attention to the news. I did watch the Arlington thing yesterday, but I really don't pay attention to the news. I really don't pay attention to what's going on because I'm busy doing my own thing that I think is more important. But she did ask me, and she made a comment that they were bringing in this unit from a base in Texas. And I was like, well, I don't know. I said, well, okay, all right, what's the base? And I asked her what the base was, and she told me a name, and I'm like, I have never, ever heard of that base. And I said, where's the base? And she said, Killeen, Texas. And I said, oh, that's Fort Hood. I said, because a guy I went to high school with that I kept in touch with in Iraq and stuff, and we both did security in Iraq in 2005. He was stationed at Fort Hood at Killeen. So I was like, well, that's Fort Hood. And I said, wait a minute. A lot of this stuff goes back to either the Civil War events or the War of 1812. And I said, what is the unit? And she said that the unit was a armored brigade. And I go, okay, all right. And I said, where was the armored brigade? I go, armored brigade. And I'm thinking, I go, oh, there's a book published in 1887. There were 3 Confederate specific books that were published in 1887. The first book was Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, which was basically established American Masonry after the Civil War. So that was the new Mason doctrine going forward. So if you go to Washington, you go to Alexandria, and you go to the Washington Monument, or Washington Mason building in Alexandria, that is, there's a flag. There are 2 flags out front. There's the U.S. flag, and then there is a Oklahoma flag. The reason the Oklahoma flag is out front is to tell everyone that is an American Masonry flag, which was founded after the Civil War. Albert Pike was a general for the Confederate Army, and he was the commanding general of the Native American tribal forces in Oklahoma. Okay? So that's where American Masonry was established. Not Scottish Masonry, not the old Masonry from the old world, the separate Masonry. Remember I said if you go there and you listen, you do the tour and listen to everything, it's all about America. If you go to the one in Philadelphia that's across from the executive building, that's the one that Andrew Jackson was a member of. And that one is a totally different perspective of Masonry. And they will sing to you about how Masonry does not get involved in politics, does not get involved in religion. It's completely opposite. It's like a 501c3 versus a philosophical understanding of Masonry. It's like complete opposites. You got to go to both and listen to both. And the one in Philadelphia, actually, a lot of their stuff that they have is all out of order. Their statues and stuff are not in proper order, so they're all mixed around. It's actually really messed up. And I've gone to both, so that's how I know that. The second book was called The Rise and Fall of the Confederate Government. It was a 2-volume series written by Jefferson Davis, also published in 1887. And the third book was a diary of a Confederate soldier. That Confederate soldier was born in the Union, born in the North, Yankee. He fought for the South, and he was stationed in Texas. And the unit, the brigade, the armored brigade that he was attached to was basically the Tennessee Armored Brigade. And that was stationed at Fort Hood. So, interestingly enough, the Tennessee Armored Brigade that was stationed at Fort Hood, doing some research, it appears that is the Armored Brigade, or related to the Armored Brigade, that was commanded by Andrew Jackson, when Colonel Andrew Jackson was head of the Tennessee militia, when what it appears, Andrew Jackson and James Monroe, and I hate to say this being related to John Adams, but John Quincy Adams facilitated the Treaty of Sessions, making Florida its own nation and Hillsborough County a new Washington through that treaty, and Jacksonville, and Jackson becoming Pope under the Treaty of Sessions in 1818. Andrew Jackson more than likely was the British that marched into Washington and burnt Washington to the ground, dressed up like the British, to help Aaron Burr and Napoleon's brother, who was the head of Spain and the head of Mexico, to build a federal government, which we now call the federal government, U.S. federal government, or the federal government, not the U.S. federal government under maritime law, but the usurpation government after the War of 1812. So it does sound like that unit, that brigade, traces all the way back to Andrew Jackson's Tennessee militia and his assistance with Aaron Burr. Now remember, Thomas Jefferson tried to have Aaron Burr indicted for treason, for raising an army in the wilderness areas of America, trying to overthrow the American Republic as vice president after the 12th Amendment was executed. And Aaron Burr, James Monroe, Andrew Jackson, and John Quincy Adams were all involved in the Treaty of Sessions with the Pope that made Florida an independent nation. And that's where this whole Hillsborough County thing comes from, and why Florida's the key to the kingdom. And that's why Florida has keys, by the way, and even Key West. So that's what I think's happening. I think that they are marching Andrew Jackson's brigade, his armored brigade, because that's what they're called, back into Washington. And the symbolic is unbinding the War of 1812. So God bless and Godspeed.